came to this conference 2 years ago and I was really excited by that conference, so I decided to come again. I love the way it's practical and down to earth. I particularly like the last speaker speaking about class and new money, old money and language around how some people who are brought up in a certain generational poverty type area haven't got the language to go and advocate for themselves in a school or in a hospital or places like that. I thought that was really powerful. It's something one of those moments where you think, I've always known that, and someone's actually done the research and told me about it. So I'm just really relieved because I do hands-on work in the Aboriginal community in Port Adelaide. Haven't got much time for even certainly no time for doing research, not much time for even reading other people's research. So to have some time out for 2 days to listen to people who have done it, and really it just reinforces your own practice and what you've done, what you do and what you do every day, but gives you a bit more of a theoretical basis for it, so you know you're on the right track or can readjust a bit and move with the times a little bit as well to get with it. So yeah, really valuable learning for people who are doing the actual practitioner type level.
I think it's fabulous. It's been really great. Really enjoyed it. The keynote speakers have been really interesting, especially Nan. I've found her to be amazing, and the concepts that she went through in terms of being non-judgmental and communicating with people from diverse communities, I thought was fantastic. Also the guy who I can't remember his name unfortunately, but who was talking about Welcome to Australia, about people who arrive here as refugees from other countries and ways of changing that message to get it out to more people. I thought that was really interesting as well. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for networking, and it's good to get those genuine connections in the community with people that are also working in services that are benefiting people in the community. And I guess it's just that whole point of it being genuine. People making genuine network connections with people, rather than it just being a lot of vision statements and mission statements that we talk about. That it's actually happening ground roots level when people are talking about what other agencies have to offer and where we can share resources and so on. So
really, yeah, I've really appreciated Nan's session. Some of what Robert Fitzgerald talked about, I think that just helped put things in place. But the whole tone, I like the way that all the agencies are working together as well. That really comes across at this sort of conference context. So for me as a family worker, there's certainly been some things that have been ringing bells, and areas that I can go into and expand, and yes, just some gelling, different ideas gelling. So yeah, I found that really helpful.
Our conference is really interesting. A couple of different perspectives on vulnerable and disadvantaged families, and Nan's session was particularly interesting, talking about language and how the economic perspective of where a family finds itself influences choices they have and how they sort of deal with what they the circumstances that they're in, sort of thing. You're just trying to relate what the speakers are talking about a little bit, how it relates to Communities for Children funding model, and basically to see whether that's an appropriate sort of funding model.
Finding it very good. It was very inspiring yesterday with Robert Fitzgerald when he was talking about Communities for Children, when he was talking about the research, when he was talking about the need for us as an industry and a community services team to be looking at return on investment. He's very inspiring. It's good that we have someone like that operating as a productivity commissioner, and I found that as a real challenge to go away and look at our research and social policy and come up with good ideas around return on investment in this area. I think one of the highlights is the collaboration that I'm seeing through the participation of the people in the conference, the workshops and the breakout groups. People are willing to share ideas, people are willing to share some of the things that they're working on across the country and across South Australia with their colleagues. And sometimes you don't always get that in an industry. But they're quite open about sharing, quite open about talking about what works, what doesn't work. and that's really, really refreshing, because in some areas you get a lot of competition and you don't always get that collaboration.
The conference has been really useful. It's had a diverse range of topics that we've looked at this morning, from neuroscience through to research agendas, through to how do you engage parents in understanding more about their child's development and how they can support it. So it's had a range of addresses to various issues, and I think most people would have taken away something of value. I was very interested in the presentation on executive functioning and children's self-control and the implications of that in their later life. I would have particularly liked to see a discussion about how experiences of chronic stress or traumatisation of young children impact on their capacity for self-control and executive function, because we certainly know there are links there. And of course the implications for that are, how do we support children who have adverse experiences of traumatisation or chronic stress to move past that experience and enable them to develop executive function and better self-control. So yes, there's lots of interesting questions raised by the material presented. Well, I'm a researcher at a university, so hearing people talk about their research, hearing about how different disciplines approach various issues is always really interesting, because as a sociologist I understand research and practice research in one particular way, and to hear people who are, for example, biomedical researchers is another kind of lens that is looking at the same topic. So it's exposure to those different paradigms that come with different disciplines of research. I think it's very interesting. One of the best things about this kind of event, I think, is it enables people from the field who are at the coalface, day to day, working with families and children, to have some professional development from a range of perspectives, on a range of topics, to network with each other and to pick up new ideas for practice. I go to a lot of conferences as an academic, and academics talk to each other all the time. But who's missing in that is often practitioners and people who haven't got the budgets supported by universities to pay hundreds of dollars to come to conferences. So it's very useful, I think, to see that services are willing to commit funds to support their workers, to come and hear some more about what is happening in the space of early childhood and families and communities.
Yeah, I think Nan's work in regards to helping people move from casual talk to formal talk was really important, to be able to articulate what they're having and what they're wanting to say, but also to being able to, within that, regulate their emotions, instead of then it devolving to them getting over emotional and maybe marginalising them themselves within conversations or within settings. I thought that was really good. And Martin's work today again was great about just that modelling and the children practising self-control actually led on to a whole lot of other things. And we see that a lot in adults in regards to discipline and staying focused and needing to practice new behaviour to change the habits they have and to change the way the brain is repeating some old habits. That kind of regulation is sometimes needing to be enhanced for adults as well. So it's good to see that coming through and knowing that we need to reinforce it with children.
I'm finding it very stimulating, because normally as an early childhood educator and academic, I go to early childhood conferences and education conferences, and this one is really cross-disciplinary. There's a lot of people who work in social work and health and that kind of thing, and so I think hearing presentations which embrace a broader audience than simply my own field is a wonderful opportunity. There's a lot of judgments about people who don't have money and who live in a different way. They may acquire things like televisions and cars in a very short term and maybe live more in the now, in the moment, rather than planning long term and that kind of thing. And I think people who come from the service professions like I do, I think often make judgments about those people, not understanding that their life is actually instructed by a different sort of context. In other words, their lives are, they don't have a lot of possessions, they don't have a lot of career possibilities, and so they put primarily relationships at the fore of their lives and the now, because that makes better sense in terms of where they're up to. Oh, just that I found Martin Westwell's talk this morning very useful in terms of early development, and in fact the whole session this morning was very valuable, so I feel like I'm getting very good value here.
Just thank you to the people who are organising it for doing such a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.